Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, and thanks for tuning into Moose Motion. Hopefully that wasn't exactly too early, but anyway, we're live, so welcome to Moose Motion. So today I'll be working on, obviously, Godzilla again. We're going to hopefully finish off this legendary project today, so what we're going to start off with, essentially, is doing a bunch of the upper spikes, getting those set for the oven and ready for paint, and then we're going to do a bit of face sculpting. So I also have some background music that I'll be playing along with the stream here. You'll find the links in the post description if you're curious. So without further ado, let's get to work here. So I just got to set up the camera here, so just bear in mind it's going to be slightly jerky here. Hopefully it's not too bad for you guys, but unfortunately I still haven't quite gotten mobile set up perfect yet. So still working on things. We'll adjust. It's not as bad as last time. I know most of you are probably watching through this on a cell phone, so we'll probably do more mobile streaming as opposed to actual streaming off the laptop there. Uh-oh. Hopefully I didn't unplug the microphone. Okay, cool. Hopefully you guys can see half decently okay. It's a little hard for me to see, but I'll just boot up the laptop here so I can kind of see what's going on the actual feed. Okay. A couple lighting adjustments are needed. Okay, so obviously the first order of business here is taking care of these spikes at the top. I don't know if it's really focused very well, unfortunately. Shoot. Oh well. Hopefully it's not too bad for you guys. Hey Claymationzilla, happy to see you in the chat. I will get to your stuff here right away. I just kind of want to take a couple quick shots here and get some background music, so bear with me guys, I'll be right back. Okay, can only focus on one thing at a time, unfortunately. So what I want to do is kind of get a sequence shot in here in between. Hopefully the camera's working okay. I have a bit of a delay on the live stream here on my end, unfortunately. So yeah, there's quite a bit of delay on the laptop. We'll deal with that, but I'm going to do basically a quick opening shot in between my videos here, just kind of help with the transition, kind of let people know what I'm basically going to be working on essentially next. So what are the thoughts adding characters like Middle Earth? Oh, you want more dragon stuff? Yeah, we'll get to Ignis at some point for sure. I'm not too sure exactly when, but we'll fake it till we make it, more or less. I think is kind of the plan with that. Unfortunately, I'm kind of the only person that is doing all of this stuff, so it takes a lot of time. Obviously, it's not easy being the only person kind of doing this stuff, unfortunately. So you'll have to just kind of be patient. Sometimes it will take a little bit longer than expected between some video projects and others. So yeah, let me get this quick transition shot here. You know, dragons are super cute. Also, I really like. I'm not familiar with that character, unfortunately, exactly. Crocomire? Oof. I'm probably butchering that name. I apologize. But yeah, I'll take a note of that here right away, and then I'll be able to kind of look up some character references in a bit. So that way I kind of have an idea of what you're talking about. Because I definitely, for the Ignis the dragon, the fire farting dragon, I definitely want to make more characters for that entire sort of series, more or less, for lack of a better term. Because, yeah, I think it would work off with one, but I think for what I kind of have planned as a story plot, I think I would have to have multiple dragon species, which I think would probably not be complained by anybody. So Apologize for light adjustments here coming your way. Just mainly because I gotta make sure this is lit up for, well, the actual video that I'm also working on. So whilst I'm streaming, I'm basically filming the actual content at the same time here too. So multitasking at its finest, I think, is the best way I could kind of put that. Now, unfortunately, I've recently gotten a new phone that's quite fancy, and I have to switch around modes on this thing all the time because my editing software can't quite handle the 8K that it has, so that kind of sucks. But usually I just kind of play around, make sure I can stay in focus, because autofocus can be a little difficult to deal with sometimes, but figure out a good place to kind of start. Something more interesting that'll sell you the fact of what we're going to be working on. I think I'll probably start off in the face and then just slowly kind of work my way down, focusing on the chest and out. Because essentially, what I'm doing here is a transition for the upper body half. Oh, too janky. Kind of shaky. Quickly review my footage. Unfortunately, I'm a little shaky today. I noticed I didn't sleep too well, unfortunately, last night, but that's okay. I'm used to being sleep deprived at this point. While blocking with their stomachs on the ground. Oh, that's a weird character design. So they're dragging their stomachs? Huh. Yeah, I can't say I've actually ever heard of that character before. Interesting. I'll definitely have to look up some references for that because I'm kind of curious. It sounds like from a stop motion aspect, I kind of like that idea of them dragging their stomachs on the ground, mainly because that just provides an extra point of balance. Honestly, it's kind of why I like Godzilla's too, because they usually, this tail and along with these big stumpy legs just kind of provide that perfect rock steady balance that you need at the base for your characters. So having 3 points of contact makes a big difference in the long run. Working with theropod dinosaurs, for example, is really really difficult. Of course, my camera does not want to stay focused. I don't know, is my lens dirty? Nope. But I'm hoping to have this guy all done this week, because he's taken a little bit longer than expected, but that's usually how a lot of these projects kind of go, but that's okay. And I made an announcement last stream about how I was going to be basically making a Shimu. So hopefully everybody's kind of okay with me breaking the point system once again. Because, yeah, I was going through my clay inventory. I have a lot of plasticine, and there's been a few colors that I've been trying to get rid of for quite some time, to say the very least. One in particular being pink. So that's kind of why I was happy to have this guy basically, actually jump into the whole algorithm spiel. It's like, oh boy, a pink Godzilla, but this is a perfect opportunity to get rid of a lot of that plasticine I have been sitting on for years at this point. So happy to kind of get rid of that stuff, or I'll not get rid of it, but actually put it to use, because I have pounds of it. And along with the white plasticine too, because, yeah, the amount of black plasticine that I go through for these Godzillas at this point, I know I've gotten a couple of requests for a green one, but it's, yeah. I wish Craft Smart Clay sold larger packs, at least where I'm from. They don't really sell big packs, so I have to buy all these sample ones, and I just end up with a massive inventory of clay after a period of time, but that's okay. Always find a use for it in the end. I should probably really stay focused and try and get this shot. This is taking way longer than I want it to. Seem to be having technical difficulties. Focusing is not a strong suit apparently today. Although this thing actually has a quite what I'm working with here is that new S23 phone, and it actually has this quite handy feature where you can basically pick a spot to lock on and it stays focused, which I probably should have done from the beginning, but that's okay. Trying to focus on multiple things at once. Okay. Think I can make that work. Might have to edit a few little things, but nothing too drastic. Takes several takes sometimes, unfortunately, for some of these things. I wish I had a fancy gimbal set that are a steadier hand, although my hands usually are pretty steady, but apparently not today. That's not an option. Nice. Honestly, Craft Smart Clay is probably one of the better products you can use. I ended up actually using a different one for this guy. Not sponsored, obviously. But it's still in the packaging here. Semi-packaged. I think it's Van Enken. Yeah, Van Enken. Not sure if you guys can really see that logo there. I don't know. This stuff seemed to work okay, but Mr. Artlight Production, who's another stop motion artist that you guys should probably go check out, does not like this stuff very much, and I personally kind of realized why within, you know, a pretty short period. No, speaking of English. Short period of time, unfortunately, because it is a lot more prone to cracking. So what I ended up doing for this Godzilla, he is not actually just Craft Smart Clay or this. I basically kind of mix the two to help at least keep that major cracking down, which honestly seems to have worked quite well, because it's kind of hard to understand, perhaps if you're not a sculptor to a certain extent, but clays have different kind of compounds and feelings. I almost personally kind of like this stuff because it's a little harder. It tends to hold its shape just a little bit better. The Craft Smart Clay I find is very oily and it's very soft in comparison. So this stuff, if you're doing a sculpture that's not really, say, moving around, or you're going to put in a cast mold, this stuff would probably work very well in comparison to the Craft Smart Clay. But the Craft Smart Clay, because of its more oily compound, which is what -1 is made out of over here, it's far more flexible, so when you're actually doing your claymations, you're not necessarily tearing your character apart, and it's not cracking all over the place. I mean, it's gonna happen, but obviously it's something you try to avoid, because you don't want that to happen during your animations, because then it takes a little bit of the magic away. So I've had some issues where I've had things break, but like my Gojira, he broke an arm on his last rampage, actually, so I had to fix that. Ended up punching a little too hard at one of the buildings, so... Okay, I'm gonna try one more time, guys, here. I'm sorry. We'll get to sculpting right away, I promise. I think I probably had too much caffeine before going on stream. I'm running on about 4 hours of sleep, maybe, right now, so... That's a bad angle. Alright, take 5, I think I nailed it. Or whatever take that was. Uh, Poo did. Uh-oh. And now it's doing weird things. I'll decide with one of those tomorrow. We'll proceed as normal. My janky camera work. Yeah, maybe I'll try one more time. Just because I can't leave well enough alone. Sorry, boys. Ah. Oh. My alarms for just in case I fall asleep. Anyway, let me take care of that because no one wants to hear that. Okay, now that I've finally gotten my janky camera work done, we can finally kind of work on some of these back spikes here. Or technically not back spikes. I suppose they would be neck spikes. So I'll give them a slightly better angle for you guys to kind of see here. Make sure I don't have any other alarms that are going to be going off. Nope, we're good. Alright. So, yeah, what we'll be playing with next is basically not actual plasticine clay, it's actual oven-baked clay. It's usually what I make my spikes out of just to kind of keep them, well, obviously more rigid, because right now these ones are pretty floppy. Probably one of the coolest things about Godzilla, but also, I hate to say it, but one of the hardest things to make. It's always a long day when you have a bunch of spikes that you're going to be taking care of, I've noticed, unfortunately, because that takes, yeah, at least 2 or 3 days of just spike manufacturing, basically. I mean, it's well worth it. It looks really cool in the end, but yeah, as you can see probably better at this point, it's quite a daunting task to take care of all of that. I think this one, I don't think we set any records for spikes with this guy in particular. I think he's got about 140 or something like that. I should probably do a count at some point. I think I've surpassed that actually, because that was just this stuff, not really including the stuff on his face and in his neck. But I think -1 currently kind of holds that record, at least for now. I'm not making any sort of guarantees on that. So, what we need to do is kind of prepare these spikes so they're not exactly, yeah, kind of make a plan of attack here. So don't want to add too, like, the fine part about the neck, I find you can't add too many actual spikes, unfortunately, mainly because if you do that, it just kind of makes it a lot harder to actually work with at that point. Because that's obviously a major part that moves around a lot of the time. So if you have a whole bunch of spikes that you kind of have to work with, I'll admit -1, I maybe went a little bit overboard, but I wanted to stick true to the character design as much as possible. It can kind of cause some little cracks, unfortunately, along with it. So it does kind of suck in that regards. What do you think? Just going to go through some of your guys' chats here. What do you think? I can't wait. Oh, Gasosaurus. Yes, that's the next dinosaur I should be doing really soon. I know I've kind of put that one off for a little bit, but it's been peak Godzilla season, I think is the best way to kind of put that, for lack of a better term, because, well, we've gotten -1 films, we've gotten this new X-Kong film coming out, so there's a lot of interesting Godzilla stuff, so it just only seemed right to really kind of jump on that, you know, trend, in my opinion, so just make sure you guys can actually see what's going on, too. Slight camera adjustment, but, yeah. Another thing I should probably do during the stream is go over all my actual uneven spots here, because that's usually something that really goes kind of unseen for a lot of my normal footage, but I've been playing with that a lot, obviously, the last couple streams, so we'll try not to do too much of that, but I see some cracking back here, so we'll get the rubber sculpting tool and kind of fix some of these spots down there. And for those of you who have been around on the live stream before, you've probably heard me talking about these tools quite a bit. Little silicone rubber sculpting tools. They're honestly great for working on Godzillas because a vast majority of these spikes are nowhere near as removable as some of the other ones. Oh, we got some gluing to fix here too. Things aren't going well. More repairs. So much for working on his neck spikes right away. I guess we're working on his backside instead. The opposite end. What I wanted. But as you can see, just these little rubber sculpting tools get in between those spikes where obviously, you know, my fingers are not going to get in there at any point. So not without causing any major spike damage. And I don't want to do that. We've already talked about how long it takes to make all of these spikes. So nope, yeah. I'm honestly kind of glad that's something that hasn't really happened a lot, like at all. And hopefully I can keep that streak going for quite some time at this point because, yeah. Ugh. Can only imagine how bad of a day it would be if I dropped that. I just don't want to think about that. Actually, I'm not even going to mention it. Because he's about 6 pounds now, give or take. Biggest Godzilla I've made to this day. So that's pretty exciting, I suppose. I like Angus and Rodan. No way. I just noticed your name. I probably should have paid attention to that a little bit sooner, but that's a kind of a cool name. No way. Oh no. More annoying alarms. Sorry guys. I thought I shut those off. Apparently I was looking at the AM section, not the PM. Okay, that was the last one. I promise. You can tell when I normally have a nap time now, everyone. Now, I do the exact opposite. I'm streaming. There's no time for naps. No sleep till Brooklyn. Okay, so this is the glue I generally use, this HPD stuff. It works great. It's usually for a lot of like modeling car kits and things like that. Not necessarily this stuff, but that's what I used to do in the past a lot. So it works great. I love this stuff. But it's generally pretty nasty, so you usually kind of want to work with gloves a lot of the time. Otherwise, it just kind of immediately cures to your fingers. So, tip for all you hobby enthusiasts, yeah, just avoid that. I'm going to grab a pair of silicone gloves here just so I don't make an entire gluey mess out of my hands. Because you generally want to keep your hands very clean when you're also working with clay. Because anything that's basically on your hands or even inside your pores will basically get sucked into it. Luckily, when you're dealing with, you know, a black character such as this, the dirt's not going to be nearly as noticeable, so it's not that vital. But it is a very good habit to kind of keep into, because I know there's some professional studios out there that have spent a disgusting amount on baby wipes. I know it sounds really strange, but basically what they do is just use that stuff to kind of, well, wipe their hands clean in between each take, because that's something I even have to do when I'm doing my claymations a lot of the time, is just make sure everything kind of stays clean, because, yeah, like as I was talking about earlier, especially with that Craftsmart clay, it's a lot oilier, and certain colors leave more stains on your hand, which is really, really strange. Hey, Kingzilla, thanks for joining in. You seem to be a regular viewer. I appreciate that. Definitely kind of new to this whole streaming thing, but I honestly quite enjoy it a lot. So we'll try to make this kind of a more regular scheduled programming. I kind of haven't figured out what's going to work best for me yet, because I have a small petting zoo that I always have to attend to when I get home from work. I have like 3 cats, 2 dogs, and a bunch of fish that live in my pond. So the only downside to this glue, for as much as I was bragging about it, it almost works too well sometimes, because this has been sitting around for a bit, so the lid is now just completely shut. So I can't take that off anymore, because it works really well for plastic, because it's obviously meant for plastic cars. So kind of doing things in an unconventional method here. I kind of have like this one scrap knife that I just never really actually use the end of this tool, so it's been kind of designated my my glue knife. Luckily, it does have a much handier end. These are something that I definitely recommend for a lot of people to get to for beginner sculptors. It's called a rake. So if you ever have edges that you kind of want to, like, say, plane down to make things just a little bit more even, it works really good at taking nice thin layers of clay off, just little bits at a time. It was probably one of my more favorite tools in the past when I was sculpting a lot of cars. Obviously, it doesn't really matter when you're dealing with a rough character such as Godzilla, because the texture is just kind of supposed to be there, so it works in the long run. But I'm gonna do my unorthodox knife dipping glue here. I don't want to waste any material, so luckily we don't really need too much for the spikes here. Gotten a lot better at them. I think there was a time where with -1 I was just kind of going through hundreds of spikes, and about half of them, every single one was popping off. That was not a good night. My XP for Godzilla creations have gotten a lot better. And one thing I'll admit, it kind of, yeah, if you're ever in a pinch like this and you're doing what I'm doing right now, make sure it's not a knife you're going to be using on a regular basis. However, once the glue hardens, I have carving tools that I can just kind of scrape that off very easily with. So it's not really the end of a deal, but that being said, I'm not using any of my nice tools for that. I'm sure if there's any sculptors in the chat, Mr. Claymation Zilla in particular, I know you make Claymation Godzillas. I know for a fact that you probably, yeah, know that. Just kind of let that set for a few seconds. This stuff dries really quick, luckily, so it's one nice thing about the modeling glue. But I'll give a quick shout out to Mr. Claymation Zilla once again, because he is another stop motion animator who happens to specialize in a ton of kaiju stuff. So if you guys are, well, just tuning in and perhaps watching this on the actual post later on when it's no longer live, be sure to go check him out, give him a subscription, and yeah, check out his stuff. It's pretty cool. I get a kick out of watching it. I love his Lego town setups in particular. Reminds me a lot of the stuff I kind of have, so. Which we'll get to that takeover at some point too. I know there's some of you, I'm surprised no one's really asked about that yet. When is that continuing? But luckily, yeah. I have some plans, and I think I need a few more monsters before we kind of continue in too far with that whole program. Ignis might make an appearance before that too, because I know he's been highly, highly requested, and it's been probably about a year since I've actually done anything with that. So, yeah. I'll make some scheduling. We'll figure things out as we play along. Because, yeah, I'm actually quite surprised. Usually, like, from my experience on YouTube, unfortunately, sometimes doing original characters don't always work out the best. And he is one that actually was quite successful, mainly because I think it was quite funny and a lot of people enjoyed that aspect of it. I don't think there's been too many firefighting dragons out there. I know there's been one of, whatchamacallit. I was dating myself. It's been a lot. I remember when the movie came out. Dragonheart. There was, yeah, Dragon Fart did a play on that one. Now, if you guys haven't seen that, that is absolutely hilarious. I definitely check that out. Things end up backfiring. I think it's the best way to put that. Oh. Speaking of my petting zoo, I have my 100-pound German Shepherd, who is usually chilling with me in the office here all the time. So if you hear the loud thump in the background, that's her. I don't think there's enough room, unfortunately, on set to really have her kind of introduced to you guys. I think she was on the last live stream. I think she poked her poked her head out of the corner, but that was really about it, though. Apparently she's camera shy, nowhere near as excited as the pug to be on camera. Foo's been on YouTube quite a few times. For those of you who don't know, Foo is my pug, when Foo is pug for Japanese, basically. So she's just having a nap, though. She's kind of an old girl at this point. Doesn't do too much anymore. But I digress. I don't want to talk about sad things about puppies. Nobody likes that. Uh-oh. Hey, Holly girl. Yes. Hi, Smiles. You're gonna bump the lighting? Make it a noise for everybody? Ah! I'm almost tempted to kind of turn it around just so you guys can get it here. Apologize for the jankiness, but you'll get to see the German Shepherd. Hey, Holly girl. Come here, sweetie. You smile for the camera? Yeah, good girl. That's my German Shepherd. That's Holly, guys, so. Back to Godzilla. I'll have to get some more appropriate camera setups for this all at some point. I do apologize for the jankiness, but I think we'll do more mobile streams kind of like this, because I think I picked up a lot of you guys are usually watching through your cell phones, so this is probably the more easy way for you to kind of enjoy the live streams. Excuse me. Okay, so now I need to demonstrate for my regular video that I'm working on while streaming and sculpting at the same time and making repairs. Demonstrate some spike making just for a little bit so people kind of know what's going on, because right now they're just kind of there. They don't make any sense to anybody else at this particular moment, so. Luckily, that process has been filmed a lot so far. I did a bunch of time-lapsing with the spikes, so we don't have to do too much on this one. It'll just be 2 or 3 scenes and moving on. Blizzman, thank you for the compliment on the dog. Yeah, she's a big brat, to say the very least. She's got an interesting smile. She uses that to her advantage, probably more than she ever should. Yeah, don't you? You know I'm talking about you. Mm-hmm. Pesty. Yeah, you're gonna make Chewbacca noises now? Okay, don't pop the camera on. Jeez. Can't you be like Fu and have a nap? We just played. Yeah. I know. Oh, God. Yeah. Sorry, guys. My dog's part Chewbacca, can you tell? I have 2 cats with... Oh, that's cute. I have 3 cats, actually. Little Miss Vindy, and then Miss Kitty, and Mr. Mittens. Mr. Mittens is one I ended up saving out of a tree a few years ago, and then just never really had the heart to kind of say goodbye, so he lives here now. Although he's a pretty cool cat. He's got thumbs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a polydactyl cat is, but it's apparently kind of rare. He's got like 24 toes. He's also kind of a brat, but I was a little, not gonna lie, part of me was kind of wondering why I was saving him out of a tree, considering he had so many extra appendages. I'm like, man, like, what, how are you stuck up here? Why am I climbing up the tree to save you? This makes no sense. And, of course, now he's overconfident with his climbing skills, usually, so. Now, I apologize if the lamp is kind of in the way here. I'm trying to get some lighting for my film at the same time, so. I think I'm just making things worse. Awkward. Okay, there we go. I would be concerned if you didn't have thumbs, and to be honest. But maybe I'll bring Mr. Mittens on camera at some point. But he doesn't like to sit still very much. Yeah. He's the young one of the family, I suppose you could say. Yeah. Entertaining little guy. I love him to death, but he's your typical cat. Oops. Just getting the background music kind of shuffling once again. Sorry, guys, here. if I have a brief pause, unfortunately. Links are in post description. I admit it's just kind of royalty free stuff. Might be the most entertaining music, but at least it's better than nothing in my opinion. I'll probably get a couple more playlists together for more entertaining live streaming, obviously, but I think this is number 3 now. So, WIP. Can you tell I'm on Instagram too? But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that platform, to be honest. YouTube, I prefer YouTube. YouTube is a lot more fun. Especially since I now have access to this live streaming, because honestly, I honestly quite enjoy being able to interact with you guys. It's quite a lot of fun being able to talk to like-minded people with the same interests in regards to Godzilla and dinosaurs and dragons and all those kind of, mythical and fantastic creatures. Because I think they're pretty cool. I mean, how are they not cool? So now I just have to deal with this floppy tripod. Although, it's a lot better than what I was working with before. Before I was on live stream here, I don't have it on hand, unfortunately. I would like to demonstrate it, because I think a lot of you would be a little surprised. It's an old, just like shoddy Lego tripod that I made, but it actually worked pretty well for the time being, but it's nice to actually have some more, appropriate equipment for the things that I generally like to do, because I'm able to get a lot better content for you guys, but unfortunately, this camera is almost too hot to a certain degree for what I like to do, because I can't use my 8K. The only time I can use my 8K is when I'm actually doing shorts, which is a little frustrating, but... So, first thing I'm going to do with the back spikes here is now kind of make this one just a little bit smaller, because I want to... I was going over a bunch of reference photos last night to kind of make sure I was ready and prepared for it this time, so I wouldn't have any awkward moments of me staring at my tablet trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next. But, either way, this one should just be a bit smaller, not to mention we don't want any issues when he's kind of doing that big lean back with a roar, because then you don't have a bunch of spike interference. So we want to make sure that we both have clearance for all the motions we want during animations, as well as keeping it accurate to the actual Godzilla. So we're just going to, unfortunately, kind of do some painful picking away at clay that we worked on, and then basically just kind of do it once again, but on a slightly smaller scale. I apologize if I'm bumping the mic around a whole bunch here. Unfortunately, what I'm streaming with here is my old iPhone, and I don't have my fancy microphone set up for that thing because I'm not a huge Apple fan. I'm sorry for anyone who is fans of Apple, but by God, is it overpriced? I think the little adapter thing for my mic was literally twice as much as what I got for my Samsung. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna walk away from that now. I'm not pretending I didn't see that. That's disgusting. And he's like, yeah, sorry, Apple. I'm like, yeah, that's why I switched. Yikes. Okay, so before I stick my little remote thing in my mouth and be awkwardly silent or talk with weird mumble, and for those of you who are kind of going, why is he sticking this thing in his mouth? I don't like having to edit my hands coming in and out of the camera all the time as my phone shuts off. So essentially what I do is I put the remote in there so I can just click that with my lips, and then what I'm going to do is just basically pinch away at this oven baked clay, which I use Sculpey. This stuff is great, by the way. I highly recommend it. Not sponsored, but either way, I wish they would, because this stuff you can bake again and again and again, and it almost never cracks. It's really hard to actually abuse this stuff, so I really, really recommend it. It is on the pricier side of your oven baked clays, but it's personally worth it in my opinion, because I've gotten some of that cheaper stuff in the past, and it's just really frustrating to have spending hours and hours of your time to have something basically just come out completely ruined and not the way you expected it, right? So for that sake, it's worth the investment in my opinion, especially in my case, considering I'm kind of doing this stuff all the time. I don't want to have to, do double takes on things if I don't have to. So, without further ado, I'm going to do a little bit of remote work here, and then I'll check on the chat. Of course, it's not right. There you go. Sometimes it takes a few clicks. Gonna have to edit on that one just a little bit. But get the idea. Just kind of pinch it into place more or less here. Yeah, you use skull. I noticed you were picking up a bunch of like armature wire and stuff like that recently. That was pretty cool. I'll have to check out. Like, have you done like any skeletons and stuff like that out of curiosity, Mr. Claymationzilla? Because yeah, that like, I know some guys that don't like that because it kind of bites through it a little bit, but I personally kind of like having the rigidity of it staying where I want it to stay. Oh, you like Apple stuff? Oh no. Don't get me wrong, like my Apple served me good for quite a few years. I just don't like the fact that basically everything that you get with Apple has to be an Apple product. Samsung's a little bit more diverse in that sense. You can kind of switch things around and it's not as expensive. That's kind of a big plus. Because I was just a little shocked that that little adapter piece for a microphone was twice as much as what it was for the other model. I'm like, I literally spent half as much. I just bought that part. And why? Just for that logo? Okay. I don't understand. There. I think that's more appropriate spike size. Kind of turn it there so you guys can see a little bit better. But yeah, as you can see, we're not going to have nearly as much spike interference. We'll probably shorten this one down at the top just so it doesn't stick out so much either. Just so we have a slightly better transition towards his neck. Oh, you did a skeleton. Awesome. It's always kind of an awkward part. I always kind of hate that stage. It's just kind of like, you're making a lot of guesswork to a certain extent. And I'll admit, I kind of did make a mistake when I was working on this guy. I got a really bad low spot there. That I wanted to make him close to the same size as -1, but I mean, in retrospect, it's probably a good thing it didn't. So that's fine. It's okay that he's bigger. I don't think anyone's going to make a complaint about that. They probably would have complained about the other thing. Just means he'll be slightly more difficult to work with in some aspects, but not that bad. So what I'm going to do, speaking of making skeletons and using wire, is take this little bit of aluminum wire here and essentially just shove it inside that spike so that's going to be its mounting point for his neck. Because these, basically everything that's actually part of his skeleton, this stuff here is actually all attached to him. The rest of the stuff where basically he's able to actually have, you know, flexibility, none of that's actually really in there. It's just being held in by a little pokey. Nothing too much, but you do have to be generally pretty careful when you're moving and transporting these guys around that you don't end up losing a spike. But I have gotten into the habit. I haven't actually had to use any of them, but I always kind of have a couple of spare spikes on hand. I just kind of end up throwing in the mix in case that does happen. So that way I don't have to spend hours looking for something because I do not like looking for things. So, message to all you kids, keep things clean and organized. I know that's not probably the most exciting thing to be saying, but it makes your life so much easier because, I don't know. Hi, sweetheart. Sorry, guys. Being bugged by the dog again. Hey, Pesty. Yeah. No, we just played. Yeah. A little bit longer and then I'll... Okay, you're getting tangled up in wires now. Silly goose. Okay, can you go lay down, sweetie? Go lay down. It's okay. We'll be done soon. Before you know it. Probably not in dog times, but... at least in people times, sort of. Not sure how long oh, I've been already going for 45 minutes. Oh, wow. Doesn't even feel like it. Possibly Gaigan. Hey again. Thanks for joining in. You got a... Have you many... How many kaijus have I made? Actually, surprisingly, not that many. I have a bigger dinosaur collection, I think, than kaijus. I have Mr. King Ghidorah, the three-headed dragon that gave me nightmares. I like him / don't. Mixed feelings about that character. -1, and then I have the original 1954 Godzilla, who was my first one. Who, at this point, kind of looks like Manila, and I'm gonna have to do a size comparison at some point, because it's kind of cool to see the evolution of my Godzillas, pun intended, because this guy is just, yeah, it's been on a steady increase. He's nowhere near as big as my King Ghidorah doll, but I don't think there's going to be many things that are going to be surpassing King Ghidorah anytime soon. Although, like I said, in the last live stream I made the announcement of the next project once I'm done this one, which is Shimu. Shimu probably could surpass that, and I know some of you are probably going to be disappointed. You wanted to see Gasosaurus or a... Shin Godzilla is technically the other one that's in the lead, but I just need to kind of restock my clay inventory, for lack of a better term. So you're going to have to kind of bear with me. I have pounds and pounds of white plasticine that I just have no idea that I'm really, what I'm going to do with. So Shimu is the best answer. But I'm going to do a little bit of filming, and then I will demonstrate how much, white plasticine I have, because it's a lot. Okay, so yeah, all you want to do is just lightly drive in that spike there. Now, one thing I basically would do, kind of the mistake a lot of the time in the past with my spike production. Oh no, I'm getting tangled. Sorry, guys. A lot of the time, what I would end up doing for my spikes is basically not actually making sure that there's no air pockets inside there. So what I'm going to do first is kind of trim down this length, get rid of all that excess wire that we don't exactly need, because we want to keep this shorter, because the longer your wire is, the more problems you're going to have essentially with the actual animation process, especially on the neck part. The tail, usually I should go a little bit longer for security purposes, but but once you're done trimming it, and usually what I like to do after trimming it down, because basically you're going to be moving it around right when you're kind of pinching it off, you just want... That sounded bad. Don't take that in the wrong way. After all that's done and you drove it in, you just kind of want to very, very gently kind of push in the spike all together to make sure that there's no air pockets inside the actual spike there. That way, once it's out of the oven, it theoretically shouldn't need glue. It's not a guarantee, obviously, but like I said before, it's been a problem in the past with some of my other Godzillas where I've just literally kept pulling every single spike out, and the support rod would come out and it would just stay in the doll, and then I'd have to glue things for hours. So hopefully this has saved quite a bit of time. I mean, I think I've only had to glue about 5 or 10 spikes on this guy, and considering there's hundreds of them, that's not a terrible ratio, and we're dealing with things that are all handmade. So anyway, I digress. We're gonna make a couple more spikes here, and then those will be ready for the oven, which future me will deal with that problem. I should have probably set my oven, but oh well. So I'm gonna basically, the next spike I'm going to make is one of these more porcupine sort of like crystal spikes on the side here that basically has, it kind of looks like one of those hollow earth crystals, for lack of a better term, from the trailer. It's been a lot of new sneak peeks, apparently. I have to kind of check that stuff out. These ones are obviously really super easy to make. All you have to do for that is obviously start with your ball of clay, and then, get the remote out of my mouth. Sorry, guys. Start with a little ball of clay, and then just basically kind of pinch it and roll it into a nice little spike. And then drive your little armature wire thing in it, and then you stick it into the neck. So now I'm going to repeat that process for the actual camera. Well, I guess that camera and this camera. Now this camera, not that camera. I'm confused. Not used to be. Yeah. Don't talk with your mouth full. I was really out of focus. Not used to being around so many cameras, can you tell? Take two. Now, unfortunately, this is kind of like I'm redoing a lot of work, but it's more or less just to kind of demonstrate what is taking place for the actual video, right? Like I said, earlier on, I'm only doing just like 2 or 3 scenes with the actual not craft smart clay, the Sculpty baked clay here, just to kind of demonstrate what's going on, because we've got plenty of footage in part 1 and part 2 of this guy. I've already, spiked, so. Try again. There we go. Nailed it that time. Okie dokie. Now I need wire, which happens to be on this side. Oh, God. Just kind of cart over to my Lazy Susan here. Now I usually have like a kind of a small inventory of little scrap bits of wire that obviously have been discarded and not used for various projects. So, try to see if I have something that's going to work. I don't think so. I don't know what happened to the piece that I just cut off either, of course. Darn it. Oops. Well, okay. I guess I'll just have to grab some more stuff. Oh yeah, I was supposed to demonstrate how much white plasticine that I had. Yeah, oh god. That's gonna be a task here. I will go through a couple things in the chat here just to kind of keep engagement with you guys. Friends for Ignis. Can tell you're a big Ignis the Dragon fan. I love Ignis. He was probably again the most popular character that I came up with. Unfortunately, YouTube generally is pretty bad in that sense. When you have your own ideas, they don't really show up nearly as much on the algorithm because, well, I'm a small-time YouTuber. It's not going to nearly hit that large count, so most people aren't really going to see it, unfortunately. That's kind of the sad part about those things. But, fun fact, the name Ignis is actually a bit of an Easter egg. I don't know if you know that. It's actually a different language. I'll give you a couple minutes here to kind of guess what that possibly could be. What language do you think Ignis the Dragon means? Or what language is that, I should say. I do say. And if you know what language it is, what does it translate to? Because it's actually kind of interesting. Although, if you're using Google, you might get a car and ignore that. It's not after the car. Don't cheat. Okay. That pretty much concludes our, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to really do for spikes. I have to put some aluminum wire in those other ones so I can at least get the other camera out of my way. Oh, there you go, Greek fire. Good job. I think it's actually Latin, but you were close enough. You nailed it. But yes, I thought that was kind of cool, and I'm surprised not a lot of people have actually picked that up yet. Dallasman 2012. Thanks for joining in. Nice to see you guys. Hopefully I'm not butchering your names. I do apologize if I do mispronounce anything. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit dyslexic, so reading and writing aren't necessarily always my strong suit, so I apologize if I butchered your names. I think I've done a half-decent job so far. We haven't had too many, although I remember Claymation Zilla's favorite dinosaur kind of being a mouthful. I thought I was going to be a lot more prepared for that, considering how much dinosaur content that I like to do. But yeah, he threw a curveball at me. That was a really cool dinosaur, though. I'm not going to try the name. I should have probably practiced, but it's related to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and a lot of the paleo art that is associated with it is actually really colorful. It looks really cool. And I always give brownie points to people that have like one of those favorite dinosaurs that maybe not a lot of people have actually ever heard of. Because everyone pretty much says Tyrannosaurus Rex or T.rex. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that being your favorite dinosaur. It's just it kind of happens to be a lot of people's fail-safe, right? So then you have the whole Jurassic Park science argument. And yeah, I don't know. Not that there's anything wrong with the entire science behind Jurassic Park. It was pretty up to date for its time, but obviously not anymore. I found it really funny in the last Jurassic World that they did. They actually put feathers on Rexy. I was like, oh no, you guys, this is the bad time to do that. Mainly because we've actually found skin impressions of this now, and we know for a fact that Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't have feathers. If it did, it was very, very small. Raptor DNA! Thanks for joining in. Your timing is impeccable. Happen to be talking about Jurassic Park. Maybe that's why you decided to show up, hey? Honestly, though, Jurassic Park is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I know that might be like Godzilla, don't get me wrong. Great films too. -1 in particular. That was great. I love that movie. That was awesome. Only complaint is the ending was a little bit kind of plugging in a little bit too much of that sequel stuff, but it's kind of to be expected, I suppose. Although I do have an interesting film theory on that, but we'll get into that stuff later on when we're finally working on Shin Godzilla, and I keep forgetting about the white plasticine. Oh god. Okay. Read the chat, grab a bunch of white clay. Started as a low Kaiju cartoon. Oh, okay, you're talking about that dragon character that's dragging his belly there. When I was... You hated the Indominus Rex? Thank you. I was, yeah, just the name was enough to make me go, oh, are you kidding me? Like, oh god. That's cringeworthy. But yeah, as you can see, this is some of my white plasticine collection. There's more. I usually keep it in plastic bags, mainly because that way it keeps all your colors separate, and because you don't want things to kind of cross-contaminate, obviously, too much. Then there's this chunk here, and, you know, I have a couple other smaller bits kicking around as well. You know, there's a lot of white plasticine, so I think at this point, I think I can, you know, ask for forgiveness on the aspect of, you know, maybe not going with the point system, because this is actually probably about like 3/4. There's still more white plasticine back there. It's I got a lot. I need to get rid of it. So a Shimu shall be on the way. Because yeah, I arguably probably have more clay than some of the art stars that, at this point. It's an addiction almost at this point, but I'm okay with it. I'm an adult now, and it was my favorite toy as a child, so it only seems right to be, you know, continuing on with it. besides, I know for a fact it's inspired quite a lot of other people to do their own little claymation creations as well as stop motion animation. So it's been a inspiration for both parties, I think is a good way to kind of put it. Kingzilla. Yes, Shimu, yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to that one. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be a big project, but at the same time, I think it's going to be one of those characters that I'm going to really enjoy working with because I haven't done too much like actual research, but he seems to be primarily on four legs, which is like, I don't have to worry about balancing problems nearly as much, thankfully. Because I can't digress how much of a nightmare that it can be, especially with some of these dinosaur characters. Probably the best example that I can kind of grab offhand real quick and easy is my little Velociraptor character here, Blue, which I'm sure you guys are all well introduced with, because mainly the big issue with these theropods is obviously all that weight tends to lean forward. So I use a lot of aluminum foil to kind of keep the weight down so they don't want to just kind of fall on their face the entire time, basically. And he's got a little broken hand here, so we'll quickly fix that and then put him back in his little home. Hanging out by the zombie dinosaur. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten infected yet. So yeah, just about done my little spike production here. I don't know how much time we're going to have to sculpt the face at this point, but I guess you guys will just have to tune into tomorrow's short to kind of find out how far I've gotten along with this project at that point. Shameless hook. And I'm hoping to have him all finished by Friday. At least that's kind of my plan, in theory. Because kind of a peak post time, I was hoping to have him done by today, but to compromise that, I'll be doing live streams basically all week, every night. Kind of haven't adjusted what time exactly is going to be working out the best for me. I think posting a little bit earlier has so far honestly been quite a bit more active, and I appreciate that, you guys, for joining me in. This is honestly so much fun. The first one was a complete blast, so yeah, definitely going to be doing a lot more of these. But I think what I'll probably try to aim for is usually around 8 p.m. or 7 p.m., maybe 7:30 p.m. will probably be the good average. I was a little late today to this one technically, and I was just kind of like rushing around, you know, a little bit too much. So that part wasn't very much fun. Kind of came into the live stream going, oh God, catch your breath, but made it. We made it. That's all that's important, right? Like video game character and first stuff too. Honestly, that's something I would kind of like. I'm surprised I haven't gotten a whole lot of video game character requests. I don't know if the character you're referring to is a video game character. I'll have to take a note of that here right away before things end. Just kind of want to see this strange dragon that you're talking about. Because yeah, like I said earlier on, I do plan on adding essentially to the dragon family. What I think I'd like to do for... It's very ambitious, like most of my plans are. But I think the idea for what I want to do in that series with Ignis is basically it's going to be a bunch of medieval Lego knights that are fighting against these fire-farting... Well, okay, there'll be one fire-farting dragon, which is technically going to be Ignis, and the rest of this council of dragons is just kind of gonna look at him strangely like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, oh no, we squished a spike. Oh well. But yeah, essentially I kind of want to have a Japanese dragon, a wyvern, you know what I mean? I want a variety of different types of species of dragons, basically. Because that was kind of a part I honestly really enjoyed about doing Ignis the Dragon was the amount of deep diving that kind of involved, you know, the scientific aspect of dragons. For those of you who don't know, obviously I'm a big nerd when it kind of comes to dinosaurs and mythological creatures. And there was actually quite a, you know, obviously they're not real. That's clear as day. I don't want to get any consumptions with that. But I just found it very interesting on some of the theories that kind of, you know, conceptions that could prove what was basically being mistaken as a dragon, for lack of a better term. And I think the best culprit that a lot of people, we don't have proof of this, obviously, but I think the biggest one that we can kind of point the finger in direction of is dinosaurs, which, you know, yay, go dinosaurs. I'm a huge dinosaur geek, so I love them. But in retrospect, if you think about it, a lot of these people back then would have been finding probably these massive fossils of dinosaurs and not exactly really having a good explanation for what it exactly was, right? So what are you gonna say? Dragon? I don't know. Like, yeah, I'd probably reach a similar conclusion too if I didn't know, you know, that kind of stuff at that point, right? Like it makes sense in my opinion. Not to mention the flying snakes. That was terrifying. I didn't really need to know that those existed. I mean, I kind of always did, but I was like, oh, okay, well, this is a rabbit hole I never really saw myself personally going down, but oh, we got a Kong request. Yes. Fun fact, Kong is, I think, number 4, number 3 on our leaderboard right now. And that is a project I really, really would like to get into, especially considering we have this whole new Godzilla X Kong thing that's up on theaters right away here this month. Oh, God, I forgot about that. I'm excited to see that film. Hopefully you guys are too. Let me know in the chat. Either way, I'm sure, yeah, you get this rhetorical question. But either way, yeah, I would really like to make a Kong because I kind of have a, I don't want to give too much away. We'll kind of leave it as a little bit of a hook, but yeah, he's not going to be your conventional doll that I've necessarily probably been working on in a matter of sense. Everything else that we've seen has always been that kind of scaly or just a normal plasticine character, like so. He will be plasticine, but we're going to put a twist on that one. I have some other craft supplies that will come into play. So it'll be an interesting project. I don't know how well it's actually going to work, I'll be honest, but I'll be, yeah, the frontier of claymation on that end, see how well it plays out. I have kind of done it before in the past with my Therizinosaurus. So if you haven't seen that character, I would kind of recommend maybe checking that out and you might have an idea of what I plan on doing. Same material I made his feathers out of. A couple more spike placements here. Of course, we got a pesky dog over here. Hi. Yeah. Oh, we got a Kong request. Okay. I think Kong's getting pretty close to Shin now. I think Shin was about 8 or 7 points, or 9 last I checked. I'll have to... It's another feature that I've been looking to kind of play around on YouTube that I haven't, unfortunately, had time for yet. Is the community post thing, where you can kind of post photos. Apparently, I've recently unlocked that, so... Yeah, I don't know. Keep your eyes open for that. I still haven't done a whole lot of like playing around to figure out what that's all about personally. I know Claymationzilla actually does some of those. I've seen a couple of his community posts before of his caricatures. So I think it'll probably be a good way to kind of make certain announcements for certain things or various progress. Although at the same time too, I usually kind of do my shorts for that. So. However, I generally kind of like to increase my activity on this app as much as possible because it seems to be, yeah, you guys seem to quite enjoy it, and I personally love really making content for you all, so win-win. I would like to make a return to TikTok at some point, but I just don't see that being in my time management. I used to be on there for a while, and my car stuff was actually pretty popular there. I had like over 5,000 followers for some time, and had videos reach well over 100,000 views, but I forgot the password. So, oops. that was dumb, but maybe I'll make a return as Moose Motion 2.0 or Moose Motion Animation, because I don't know if anyone's actually noticed that yet, but technically the channel has gone under a name change recently. because I was doing a little bit of analytic research, and every time you type in moose motion, you would usually kind of get a bunch of hunting videos, and I don't think that's necessarily what my targeted demographic is. So I was just kind of like up late editing for the next stream, and I was like, okay, I've been thinking about this change for at least a year, so technically it's no longer just moose motion, but I mean, I'm not going to be offended if that's what we refer to as only, but it is now moose motion animation. So hopefully I've gotten away from the hunter analytics a little bit. Because yeah, I found that strange. I'm like, no. That doesn't necessarily jive. But yeah, I'm almost done the spikes here, so just putting the last piece of wire inside that little spike, and then these will basically be ready for the oven. So for Sculpey baked clay, the instructions read that you should be working with 1/4 inch thick clay. Obviously we're not doing that. It's a lot thinner here, but you can still kind of get away with the same time frames, maybe a minute or two less. So you want to set your oven temperature for 275 degrees Fahrenheit or 135 C for you Americans. Can you tell where I'm from, eh? What I'm talking about? Endoraptor rap. No, that sounds amusing. I gotta have to check that out. I'm curious. Have you guys seen the epic rap battles recent video? I got a real kick out of that one. That was hilarious. I love that. That was yeah. I would personally like to play that song for you guys, but I guarantee that's just a copyright strike waiting to happen, so we're not going to do that. Sorry guys, just had to grab a mint there for a second. Kind of, voice is starting to get a little sore, talking a lot. Not used to this much streaming. Okay, I think I've done all my spikes. Yay! Now they just have to be painted, clear coated, and dry brushed. So, going to be another late night on this monster. That's okay. As you can see, yeah, he's kind of a pirate right now. We only got one eye on one side. But those are kind of temporary. Anyway, so we are ready for the next step at this point. I gotta put these on the oven tray so I don't lose them, first of all. Yeah! That's exactly what we don't want to do. Throw a bunch of spikes around. Okay. So now that those are ready for the oven, and future me when off stream is going to do that, and you'll probably see those all painted up tomorrow, I would imagine. Where's my first Godzilla? When will you make Shin? Or Shimo? Is that Shimo? Oh. Oh, yes. I'm guessing you are a little late for that announcement. Shimo is actually the next project, because I have way too much white plasticine, and that stuff has to go. And you want to see my very first Godzilla, you are going to have to bear in mind he is in maybe a little rough shape right now, unfortunately, because he was recently, obviously, attacking the city, so we're going to just kind of take our other monster down here for a few minutes. He'll just chill on the floor. He's big enough. He can take care of himself. But my very first Godzilla is our little Gojira back here. Kind of a loose interpretation off the 1954 original. And you can see he's quite a bit smaller. Unfortunately, he's got a couple cracks and stuff like that. He's been well loved. He's been in quite a few animations at this particular point, so he is due for a animation preparation / restoration. But it's also kind of a good demonstration to see how far I've come along with these sculptures in particular. Like, he's not bad, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of early mistakes that I made, especially with the spikes, unfortunately. His tail is a mess. That is probably going to be the first thing I really want to redo, because obviously it's cracking and stuff like that, because a lot of these spikes are just driven in way too far to the tail that it's just lost a lot of flexibility, and it's not good. So live and learn. Our legendary Godzilla here has probably got the most state-of-the-art, kind of technology, I guess you could say, as far as our stop-motion puppets go for our little studio here. Because he has basically all Lego joints for his actual hips. And this guy, well, he's basically just kind of got a bunch of wires hooked in on each other. Nothing too serious, basically. But, yeah. He'll get his restoration. Barco Gamer. Just chilling, making some Godzillas. How are you this evening? I'm gonna bring out my other much larger character, as you can see, yeah. Things have only gotten bigger. But I'm okay with that. I think we're gonna have to do a studio upgrade at some point where basically my entire house will become a stop motion studio. So that's okay. I don't really use my TV for a whole lot of anything else, and I think if I use it for streaming and various other things like that, I can justify having that thing for once in my life, because it just collects dust. Unless the occasional stop motion movie I'll watch, but not too often anymore. Busy content creating. Stop motion and sculpting takes a lot of time, unfortunately, but it's something that I've done for a long time. I think I've been doing this stuff for at least 25 years plus, 28 maybe, I don't know. Long time, so yeah. So now that we're done the spikes, probably play around with the face a little bit here, but not too much. Probably going to call it end to the stream here in a little bit, but we'll continue on for a little bit longer because we seem to be getting pretty decent amount of views here. So there's 167 of you. That's pretty cool. Nearly as good as the first stream, but I'm not too surprised. That one, I think a lot of people are pretty excited to be tuning in for the very first time, so. Go back to Teeny Godzilla? I mean, maybe, but I don't really, that's not the main focus or project at hand. We gotta get this guy done on Friday. I'm hoping. At least that's my theory. Godzilla from Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire is 36 feet tall. I think you mean 360 feet tall, right? Because I've noticed that's one thing they've also kind of done is just increasingly made Godzilla way bigger. So it is a good thing that this guy has ended up being such a monster. I can't remember correctly if this one is technically bigger than the new, or not the new, Shin Godzilla. I think they're pretty close, but I know that was kind of a thing that Japan had going on with Shin Godzilla for a while there. It was, our Godzilla is much bigger than any other Godzilla now. It's like, okay. I can see where this is gonna go. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it obviously kind of gets to a point of being slightly, like, okay, ridiculous, but then again, that's what these things are all about, and I kind of love it. Especially this new film coming out with the whole Hollow Earth gravity concept thing, which I think some people have really been disheartened about with, like, for example, I don't want to be too spoiling too much, but there was one recently where Kong was riding Godzilla. So I personally was like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's ridiculous, but I love it. I'm excited for 1984 Godzilla. Yeah, that one will be interesting. Be very, very similar to probably my original Godzilla, I would imagine, but probably a little more movie accurate. I'm hoping. As time has progressed, there's been a running joke that my XP for a Godzilla creation has definitely increased. So I think I'll probably be able to accurately interpret those little goofy Suitmation Godzillas a little better next time around. But yeah, I hate to say it, but part of me just immediately thought about putting a pair of googly eyes on it. I don't know if that would be very popular. Maybe I'll do one animation where he has them on just for silly purposes. Because I know I have some plans where Kevin, for the King Ghidorah fans, I'm probably gonna do some weird things with that head in particular in the near future. Because, well, it only seems canon, right? Because he is the goofy one. But what I'm gonna do right now is just kind of fix a couple uneven spots, more or less. GXK. I believe he's on my list. I'm not sure how many points he has gotten at this particular juncture, but I will definitely make a note. That's actually going to be kind of... I'm excited to do that. Like, there'll be a point in time where we have our own little Godzilla clay collection, and yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of Godzilla fight showdowns at that point, so there's going to be a lot of monster fight action, which I think a lot of you will be very excited to see. I want to do some dinosaur fights too, so for my dinosaur fans, don't get me wrong, we'll get those. I kind of want to make sure that I have a very appropriate environment for the dinosaurs, almost more so than the monsters. The monsters, I gotta demo, yeah. I gotta destroy my Lego city first of all. That has to get completely destroyed before we can kind of move on, because that's going to be their playground, more or less. And for the dinosaurs, I would like to basically make a kind of a very accurate set of what you would kind of expect to see, probably from the Cretaceous period. I personally would like to have an environment for each one, like have one for the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous period. But given the fact that generally the Cretaceous is kind of the most popular and that's where the most famous dinosaurs are, I'm probably going to start off with that one and try to keep it as scientifically accurate as possible while building basically a diorama set for these dinosaurs to kind of, have their big showdown in, is the idea. Because I could do it on my art table, but I would like to try and give it that aspect that these creatures are perhaps more real, if that makes any sense. Like, kind of give it that it's not just this big stage fight, like, that's more or less, perhaps there's a piece of food or something that they're fighting over. There's an overall reason behind it, is essentially what I'd like to do. As opposed to the monsters, I'm not too sure. I mean, I kind of have a bit of a narrative for the whole takeover at the moment, but I noticed the zombie dinosaur fight, just going at it with -1 for no particular good reason other than the fact that it was cool, has by far been the most popular video, so we'll probably do stuff like that, and I'll have to do more zombie dinosaurs for sure. But tends to be a bit of a seasonal thing. I'll have to do probably, yeah. But one thing at a time, one thing at a time. We got Shimo to do next. I shouldn't be piling on too many other ideas in my head at the moment. We'll stay focused. Maybe Spinosaurus versus T.rex. Oh, that's a fight I would really love to do, but that one's one of those versus you kind of have to be careful with. Like, I know there are people for a fact that are still upset over the Spinosaurus losing to the original T.rex, because yeah, we kind of my personal favorite dinosaur is Spinosaurus, so maybe I'm a little biased on that end. I wasn't really disappointed at seeing that at all, even though I know it's not what would probably happen in real life, but I just think it's a really cool dinosaur and is very underappreciated to a certain extent. I mean, it's gotten a lot more limelight the last couple of years because of the recent discoveries in 2020 with it having essentially a big newt tail. So that was pretty cool and basically kind of brought it to the public's attention a lot more than I think ever has been. But at the same time, too, it's always been kind of undershadowed by T-Rex, and everything always kind of has been, unfortunately. And yeah, might not be the most popular opinion, but I'll say it. I wasn't always the hugest fanboy of Tyrannosaurus Rex. I was just kind of like, yeah, everyone likes Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I've done quite a few deep dives on that animal at this point, and honestly, the entire Tyrannosaur Day family as a whole is probably one of the most impressive dinosaur species. So that opinion has been obviously since changed, where it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's incredible. I get it. I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. So score one for the T-Rex fans on that. It's like, yeah. I'll reluctantly say I like it. Raptors are probably another one of my favorite species, although I think Therizinosaurus would probably be one of my other favorite dinosaurs. I have a habit of liking the giant weirdos, but there's something about that giant pot-belly weird dinosaur that I can't help but love. And again, it's kind of one of those dinosaurs that we unfortunately don't have a whole lot of specimens on, so it's one of those ones where you tried to kind of get a whole lot of information on, and you end up kind of getting a little frustrated and just wishing that there was more specimens and more information out there. I think it's slightly better than Spinosaurus, but not by a long shot. Like, the big issue with Spinosaurus at the beginning was the first one was found in 1909, I believe. I'm not 100% certain on that date, but it was found by Ergen Stromer in Germany, a German paleontologist, and this is around the time, obviously, world wars were happening, and what happened to the very first specimen was basically it was destroyed in a carpet bombing event, and the museum was basically leveled to the ground along with the specimens of the Spinosaurus. So for a very long time, the only specimen that we actually really had of, like, good specimen or the holotype of Spinosaurus was basically just a bunch of photographs. We didn't actually have a real skeleton for a very long time. Then in 2022, we recently the paleontology community made a big discovery. I can't remember the guy's name. There's a huge documentary on it. I definitely recommend you guys check that out if you're big into dinosaurs. On the 2020 Spinosaurus, there was one found in Africa or Egypt, I believe, somewhere. And basically, it had the entire spines running down the entire tail, and it was really cool. I was super pumped, and it's probably one of the more complete skeletons that we've had, and we haven't actually had a good specimen of that dinosaur for well over 100 years. But obviously, I digress. You can tell I'm a big Spinosaurus fan. Ankylosaurus. Yes, that is a very good choice, too. I'm not sure if you saw my virtual museum tour of the Museum of, whatchamacallit, I'm wearing a hat, I should know, the Royal Terrell Museum, but they had a really cool, it's not an Ankylosaurus, I can't remember what that species name is, but it's the relatives that do not have the bone tail, starts with an S, shoot, it'll come to me in a bit probably, but, they had one of those specimens there, and it was named Boreopellielta. Boreopellielta. Really, really cool dinosaur. Like, completely mummified. It was very eerie almost because it was so well preserved that if you looked into this thing's face, you can make out where the eyes are and everything. Like, it was just very detailed, and it's probably as close as I have ever gotten, or anyone, a lot of people will ever get, to actually being able to look a dinosaur in the face and the eyes. And it was really, I don't know, it was really interesting and kind of cool for that aspect. Sorry guys, you kind of can't see what I'm doing, working on right now. Just kind of adding some little more clay to the face to some of the uneven spots here, trying to make sure it's not going to fall off either. But yeah, check out that video if you haven't. Boreapellielta is one of the world's best preserved ankylosauridae, or ankylosaurs, or it's not an ankylosaur, it starts with an S, but either way, the ones that don't have the clubs, I'm kind of away from my dinosaur script nerd stuff, so I can't remember at the moment. But there's another one that was also found in Canada, and he's actually arguably got an even cooler name. His name is Zool. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but that's, I think, slightly better preserved and more complete than the Boreapellielta. But either way, very, very cool specimen, and I can't wait to go back next summer. So future content coming from Alberta again, I'll have to admit. I really enjoyed my trip down there. It was a lot of fun. And it's obviously one of the world's best museums for a reason, I would say. It's a lot of fun. My only complaint was the weather didn't hold up, so I didn't get to actually see the live dinosaur dig that I was hoping to film. But fingers crossed for next time, guys, that I go to Alberta and I get to actually film some live dinosaur digs, because I would love the opportunity to nerd about that stuff, and I'm sure you guys would too. But yeah, if any of you have your favorite dinosaurs, let me know in the comments below, because obviously, if you can't tell, I have a treasure trove of information. I love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are really cool. It's been one of my dream jobs to be either a paleontologist, or recently I just found out that you could become a paleo artist. For all of you young aspiring artists out there that love dinosaurs, that's definitely a goal I wish I knew about far earlier on in life. So what that job description entitles is, you basically get to do what I'm doing here. You draw or sculpt dinosaurs. That's all you do. But you do kind of have to stick, obviously, to the scientific aspect of things to keep it as accurate as possible. But honestly, it makes for some really cool, like, it's an interesting mix of, like, the art world and the science kind of combined. I personally really love it and find it interesting, because I'm very intertwined with that as is, just in my, hobbies, more or less, at this particular juncture. So, yeah, really cool. I envy anyone who's a paleo artist. I really do. It's such a cool job. Oh, where is -1? Okay, you want to see -1? Do a little bit of Godzilla show and tell on the live stream. He is hiding behind the big Godzilla there, as you can tell. I think he has bumped into him a few times. He got a couple rough fingers that we should probably fix, but this is -1. Probably one of my favorite sculptures that I've made so far, to be honest. He does need also a bit of a restoration, but he is not nearly in bad of shape as my Gojira back there, obviously. But you can see a lot of my skin textures is kind of starting to kind of fade away from me playing around with him, animating him, and moving him in different positions. I'll quickly demonstrate how you can kind of fix that. It's a necessary evil. I almost kind of wish I didn't do it. It looks really cool in my opinion, so that's why I've decided to kind of stick with that, like, Godzilla texture skin. But I'll admit, it's really kind of a hassle to try and maintain, for lack of a better term. Because being a claymation character, I have to come in here and move him every time I want him to do something. Say, throw a punch or move an arm, you move him a little bit. Every time you're touching it, you're just kind of ruining that texture. But that's where basically having this fancy-dancy roller tool comes in. And I think this is the King Ghidorah one. That belongs to the dragon, not Godzilla. I know that seems strange, but these little tracks generally have a habit of picking up, like, little clay bits that you generally just kind of don't want to mix up with because you're driving into the clay, and if you start mixing yellow with black, and it just kind of, we don't want to have a weird spotty cheetah Godzilla by any means. So essentially all you have to do is just kind of roll this around on the actual skin impressions, and it gets you that dentage. Needs a little bit of cleaning, but basically that's kind of how you do it. Got some white plasticine on this for some reason. I'm not sure where that came from. Is that the King Ghidorah one, or is this the King Ghidorah one? That's definitely the King Ghidorah one. But yeah, I had to buy 2 sets just so I didn't cross-contaminate things. Kind of annoying because I was only going for 1 tool, and I, of course, had to buy a bunch of them, but I suppose someone might actually kind of enjoy the other patterns that it comes with. I personally not, and I don't think I'm ever going to use the flowers and leaf patterns, but hey, at least it came with cool Godzilla skin. That justifies it, right? Yeah. Totally justifies it in my mind. But yeah, this is -1. Unfortunately, his spikes don't exactly all jet out yet, and he's been kind of bumping up against King Ghidorah a lot lately, so his tail is pretty dirty, so he's got that cheetah look kind of going on, unfortunately, down here. But oh, possibly Gigan. Hey again. But yeah, this is my -1 character. So there will be further modifications. He definitely will be in a lot more animations in the near future. And yeah, we'll see how much more, I like this one in comparison to my other guy. I'm kind of partial to the big one. Oh, his tail's really squished. Probably got stepped on. But we'll see. -1 is still really cool. I love the spike design on that Godzilla. It was, yeah. I remember immediately, I was working late. I can't remember on exactly what project I was doing at that particular time for YouTube, but it was right around the time the trailer was within a couple hours of being released. I just saw it once, and I was just like, okay, yep, no, that is too cool. I have to make this. I want a -1, so yeah, I hopped on it. I remember actually getting a few comments in regards to, I can't believe someone's already making this, and I'm like, well, can you blame me? Like, come on. That was cool. But yeah, I remember saying this in my last stream. Was disappointed when trailer 2 came out, mainly due to the fact that seeing those spikes jet out was just so cool, but I had not appropriately prepared for that whatsoever. So it was just kind of like, oh man, basically, in order to make that happen, I would have to basically like remove all these spikes back here. And as I, was talking about earlier with my Godzilla designs, these are always kind of part of the skeleton. So you can't actually like separate these. So in order to have that jet out effect, like -1 Godzilla in the movie would, I essentially have to make an entire new set of spikes, possibly even 3 or 4, so I can have them glow blue and do that whole boom, boom, boom sort of thing. I think it would probably be worth it, but I guarantee that's going to be another day where I'm probably going to have a lot of spike nightmares. But it'll be worth it. For the atomic blast breath, it'll be well worth it at this point. So, yeah. Yeah, he is a pretty big kaiju, but not as big as, our current project, I think. But, at any rate, I think it's about time that I kind of ended the stream. We are going a little longer than I thought, so you guys will have to kind of tune in for the short next time. I'm going to do a little bit of spike work continuing, I think, because I'm not happy with my thagomizers that are at the end of this tail. So we'll be working on the face, and I don't think there'll be too much left on this project, so hopefully we can get it done by Friday. I'm not entirely sure if we'll make that deadline yet. I'm going to try my hardest either way. Yeah, so be sure to tune in to tomorrow's stream. I'll probably be back on again. I'm not sure exactly when, but I'll fake it till I more or less make it. So I should probably be on around, say, 8 or 7 o'clock, give or take. So hopefully I see you all guys then. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun. That's enough from me. Till next time, take it easy. Now I gotta do this awkward transition of, how do I cut this? Ah!